bad habit.
Hey, welcome. Welcome back. We are going to go over a few things before we get on a great night started of all sorts of stuff. We got to talk about Belize. It's going to be great. We want everyone to go on the website and take a look. We are going to be going to Belize at the end of July, the 24th. Check it out. We want you to come. We're going to do a bunch of fun stuff tonight. What is it?
What is what? What's on the docket, or why am I breathing deep?
Both.
Oh, well, before we get into that, I think it's important to mention that tomorrow we are interviewing Brad Olsen.
Super cool. A lot of you know who he is. Some of you don't, but Brad Olsen is pretty amazing. He's an author. He's an explorer, adventurer. He produces incredibly great gatherings that, of all the things this man's done,
conferences. He does, like, he organizes conferences and stuff, right?
Yeah. He's been to Antarctica. He's been somebody that I've always followed that has had such an adventurous life that we're going to get really into it with him tomorrow. We're on Unity Manifest podcast this week with Gary Cucuchulio. That's happening this week. It's really, and we have a new segment for RKOX, which you're going to be able to find. All of our segments are available on podcast catchers, but we are, of course, always available on rkeox.com. And we have a new segment that we're going to be doing on Friday mornings. It's going to release every morning at about 7 Central ish Central, because in this world, why do it all at once when we could do it a little bit at a time, within the realm of an hour, about a marker of 7 Central AM.
Sure.
We shouldn't be too specific anymore.
I don't feel like we should, because it's like setting expectations, you know what I mean? Like in a relationship, or really any ship. It's like, if you know what I'm saying? If you put it, that's why I'm always like approximately. I'll be there at approximately noon, because if you're a little bit late, then it's like I said, approximately, you've covered your ass. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but for people that don't understand, approximately, Kristi's window is 2 to 3 hours.
It's not entirely true.
If she hits it under, it's like super on time. But the reality is that I
really think that in, like, maybe a past life, I existed in another country that just doesn't have time. Hey, do you know what? Recently, not to segue or anything, but I'm going to. Recently, I read or watched a video, maybe, I don't know, where I intake so much information I don't always remember what the source is. Anyways, but I heard about this country, not a country, it's like maybe it's a country, I don't really know, this place somewhere on the planet, right, that exists without time. So there are businesses and people, it's like a normal city. That's what it is. It's a city somewhere, and in the city there is no time, and it's on an island or something, and it's completely remote. Somebody, you know what? Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm pretty sure, unless I dream this, I think that it's real.
Yeah,
and it's a thing. But this place exists without time, and I think I'm reincarnated from something like that. You know what I mean? From another space and time that exists without time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, I accept this. And by the way, I don't think there's any judgment around, whether it's 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 minutes. So people should just be happy that they're, joining in. It doesn't matter if it's 7 or 8 a.m. or,
Yeah, right? It doesn't matter.
No.
Everybody just can be flexible.
Right. And it's a great space to be in, right? Do you feel like you live in a better space now that you don't have to worry as much about time?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, it's like, is it because I left my day job? Or is it because time is an illusion? I don't really know which one. Maybe it's a mixture of the two. I don't know. Is it because I'm not really sure. I think I'm intentionally trying to slow down more, like, since leaving my day job. Like, I'm intentionally, it's like if I accidentally hit the off instead of the snooze on my alarm.
Okay, so here's the thing. it brings up a question for me about your day job. Do you feel like the day job forced you about time more so than just life in general? Was it the job, or was it that you felt like what was attached to time most for you?
So that's a good question, because honestly, the job that I left was super flexible, and I had a lot of autonomy, and I had a really wonderful boss who just kind of let me do my own thing. And so I was able to, if I wanted to work in the evenings instead of during the day, like, or the mornings or whatever, I could do that. I had that.
It was goal based.
Yeah, it was more goal based. It was just more, yeah. And so he wasn't like a, micromanager. And so I had a lot of flexibility, and, but it was more pressure on myself, because even if I wanted to, start my day at noon and work until 8 instead of, starting the day at 8 and working till 5 or whatever, or 4, like, instead of, the people at the office were still working a normal, like 8 to 5.
Okay.
And so if I needed things, it made it harder to get things done in the evenings.
Right. There were certain tasks that became absolutely time dependent.
Yeah.
So you're tied to it no matter what.
Yeah. And then honestly, I think that it's just programming. I think that I felt, it's like, because I still fight that now. I still have to tell myself, like, it's okay. It's because of given our schedules. It's like tonight we're working and it's 8 o'clock and it's going to be, midnight before I get in the bed. So I'll probably sleep a little bit later in the morning. And so at 8 o'clock, when normal people are at the office having coffee, I may be just getting out of bed because, I'm like, I need 8 hours. That's science.
By the way, hellos to those who are watching on our YouTube channel. Thanks for saying hi.
Hello.
And yeah, back to the time thing. I think it's interesting because you're in an environment that it had benchmarks and you had independence, but it is a corporate environment where you're working across the nation, and there's a time frame that even if you wanted to work 9 to 5, you couldn't because you have East Coast, West Coast.
Sure. That's true too. We did a lot of business from coast to coast. And so there was always, and we have an office in Hawaii.
Oh, that's going to throw you off.
So it was
hours.
It was 5. So it's a 5 hour difference between us and the office in Hawaii. And so that was tricky too. And so, yeah, you're right. Time zones made it a little more. So you're never really working in 8 to 5 if you're in any sort of like service industry. I feel like it's harder to close the doors at 5 o'clock.
But you also didn't have an internal drive that let you do that. You felt like you had to work. You wanted to work.
Yeah, it's like a programmed into society thing. It's like you turn 5 and you start kindergarten, and then you're in school and you graduate 12th grade, and then you're supposed to start college, and if you do the traditional path.
Okay.
And then you go to college for 4 years, and then maybe even longer, and you get more degrees or whatever, and then you go to work. And the typical work day for your average person probably is like the normal 8 to 5, And so it's like you grow up thinking, I'm going to work this 8 to 5.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it's like, I felt like it was just more of like a societal expectation, or like programmed. It's more programmed into us. Like, this is just what we do. We work during the day, and typically, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. That came from somewhere, right?
Yeah. So basically the feelings, you were probably, did you have an internal feeling that you were not doing a good enough job, or you're not doing?
Yeah, I did. It did make me feel like if I wasn't, sitting at the computer and I got a phone call, and I wasn't, and my day had started later or something.
Okay.
Then it felt like I don't want to answer the phone with a raspy voice. You know what I mean? Even though in my mind, I know that. And here's the thing too, it's like we have these office workers across the nation or country probably. And they work these or nation, country, world. That's what I meant. And they work these like normal 8-hour jobs. Okay. How many hours really of those 8 hours are spent in productive, efficient work?
I know this stat.
Oh, what is it?
The general stat has always been 20%.
Oh, okay.
That's the known corporate
huge.
stat. Yeah.
Okay, that's huge. And so there you go. And also, I think that icky virus, the one that nobody talks about.
Okay.
That one went around and everybody went remote, and then we really got to see like what that overhead was and how efficient people can actually be at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Not everybody's equipped or wired, to function that way. A lot of people like to go into the office every day, but some people are more efficient at home. And so it's like, I don't feel like we need to be putting in 8-hour days if 4 of those hours are spent, it's like you put in, honestly, it's like you go to work at 8 and you grind really hard until lunch, then you go to lunch, then you come back from lunch, and then you're just sluggish and slow because we eat like shit, most of us.
That's true.
So then we're tired by the time we get back to the office.
Oh yeah. And so the questions on our, what of that 20%, what's that window? And
Right.
I wish I could remember the name of the company, but one of the first places that they tried to do this crazy 3-day work week was in Sweden. And it was at a car factory. And they couldn't believe it. The quality of the work increased. The amount of mistakes went down to less than 0.5%.
That's crazy.
All because people only had to work. They literally took this work week and made it into a 3 and 4 day work week.
I love that though.
And the efficiency, well, it pissed off a lot of corporate America, but from a manufacturing standpoint, the lifestyle for you to have most of your life to yourself.
Yes.
And they did it, and it's been going on, and it's never talked about. And I was really interested in this kind of Deming efficiency manufacturing, corporate environment where you got an office, but you also have a factory assembly thing where you could gauge what's changing with this kind of workday. And you could see it on both sides, whether it was, you could say, oh, well, it doesn't work like that in the office, but it works like that on a machine floor. And it's like, no, they did it in both. And they had people stop calling in sick.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to call in sick. Everybody wanted to do their 3 days or 4 days.
Right.
No, and it's been efficient like that. But again, it's not a popular thing to say. So then there's that thing where people stayed home a lot more than normal. And you have a lot more people, technology wise. I have a friend who's in corporate data security, works for a huge corporation that's based out of Seattle. Everybody can guess, but he lives in South Carolina, works remotely, always on the computer, doesn't matter where, but
look at our partner, Tom. Like, hey, Tom, if you're watching, we love you. But yeah, he sits in his dungeon all day long and works remotely.
His choice of words, by the way.
Yeah, not ours.
He calls it a dungeon.
Yeah. But and look how efficient he is. That man, he's like the most efficient ever, I feel like. Yeah,
because he gets to be out in the field and he gets to do actual LiDAR work and scanning.
Yeah.
And then he gets to go and process it. So when he is I call it his lair.
Yeah.
But he gets down into his dungeon lair, and then he's processing this data, and then he has those 3D printers. So it's kind of a magical world down there.
Sure.
So the first time I went down there, I was just shocked at all the cool 3D models that he had printed of all these ruins. And
how far is that road trip, you think, for us?
Now that we're here,
a plane ride, not
about
a drive.
19 hours.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. Hey, you know what though?
I was going to invite myself, Tom. Sorry.
Oh, you know what would be great though is we could stop at Falling Waters in Pennsylvania. We could stop at we could look for the Moon-Eyed people in the Appalachia on the way.
Field trip.
Yeah. So there's a few things we could stop and
we could
see.
Get some field research in.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we could see some things.
Okay.
So that might be a good idea. Plus, we could go see Gary Cucutulio from Unity Manifest. We could stop in Jersey on the way, and then go up to Tom.
I've never been to Jersey.
Yeah, and it's a cute house, and I know he'd have us. So we could do this.
It could be a cute yurt. I'd show up.
Gary would put one up.
It wouldn't even have to be cute. Okay. Honestly.
Yeah, we could make a few stops on the way. We could definitely stop and see Freeman.
Oh, yes.
Freeman. I'm invited as Freeman.
Okay, so it looks like we're coming up the coast, guys, and we're going to come see you all on the way.
Everybody will put us up. It'll be great.
Fun.
Okay, so we got that down.
We'll just couch surf for like a week and go see all of our friends.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, fun.
And then we'll see some Moon-Eyed people and maybe see some weird mysterious. There's there's a few mounds that look maybe Mayan, maybe there's some few just ancient civilization stuff that is in the Americas that we will drive right through, and then we can just do some live on-site broadcasting.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
We can do that.
Okay.
So do you want to get into some of this interesting
Yeah,
stuff?
what's on the docket?
What's on the docket is you have some surprises for me that are...
Those are for tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So these are strictly just... we're talking UFOs.
Oh, yeah, we are. And the reason, guys, is because this dude over here wrote a book about aliens, but not really. His title's tricky, and it makes you think that it's about aliens when it's really not.
Well, here's the thing. It includes aliens. So it's not aliens, worse it's us discovering our lost history. That's version 1.
Tell us what it's about.
So it's about this clearly advanced global human society that was here at least once. And there's all sorts of facts that lay out that there's at least this one human society that was building these polygonal constructions, these megalithic blocks. It's not just that they're big and heavy. And it appears that things that we think are paranormal or psychic or second sight or remote viewing, there's all these biological abilities that they all seem really neat if you apply them to a mysticism or a religion or something, and you think, okay, well that's a mystery. But when we add it all up, to me, the whole book says, hey, if you look at all the pieces together, it's clear that an advanced human race was here, and it's likely whether it was natural disaster or war or both that they fell apart. It's very likely that some of them survived.
Sure.
So it's very likely that a lot of things we see that are in quotes UFOs, they are in the sense that they're way beyond our technology, but it's because if you look at the frequency and energy technologies, and I just lay out the facts that it's very likely that these advanced humans would possibly still call this place home. So some of the surviving tech, the global society's gone. So maybe some of the higher technology was reduced to like pocket technology. So maybe they don't need to have a world grid, energy grid, or anything else like that. So maybe some of their abilities has changed, but how they would look, the way we biohack, I get into all of it in the book about, yeah, you see someone that's like, well, they're a reptilian or they're a gray, or there's all these different terminologies for all these aliens. And we think, okay, there's basically the Star Trek Federation living behind the moon.
The Galactic Federation.
Yeah. So again,
you don't think so? I don't think they're behind the moon, right? I think they're inside the moon. Isn't the moon hollow?
Well, so here now we have a dilemma now. We have Neil Armstrong saying that he landed on the moon.
But did he?
Right. So there's the dilemma. There are now the people who are saying we never went to the moon.
Listen, here's can I just say this?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just watched this video the other day. And in this video, this woman was talking about how nobody's actually been to space without permission. That basically there's like a galactic federation or a group of space beings that are like gate watchers, basically. And if you go into space without the right frequency, like you're trained to go into space, like you're trained to do that. And if you're not properly trained and your frequency doesn't match, that's like your passport. Your frequency is like your passport, according to this woman. Okay. And so you get it, and that makes sense. So your frequency is like the code. Okay. So it's the passport to get in.
Okay.
All right. And, but if your frequency does not match the gate code, like if it's the wrong code or whatever, you come back all jacked up. So you come back like he was, a little distorted and depressed. You know what I mean? Like questioning reality and stuff.
Okay. So since we're talking UFOs and we're talking aliens, so here's for those.
Can I just say one more thing?
Oh, not at all.
Okay. Perfect. So don't you think it's a little far-fetched to think that reptilians are advanced humans?
So here's my thought on this, because I've kind of contemplated, why are there so many races? Why are there so many different kinds of humans?
Sure.
And there seems to be some types about, there's a kind of a, like take Russians. There's this thing that like they're all incredibly brilliant, and they're all, you're welcome, Russia. You're all incredibly brilliant. You could all basically be, you all speak 35 languages, and you all can basically be nuclear scientists. There's this like, there's different stereotypes about what.
And they sound really intimidating when they speak.
Yeah. And there is this idea that there is different personality and or abilities just naturally within all these different cultures. And I kind of wonder if, again, tens of thousands of years ago, or catastrophically when this all failed, that there was a reason for that. So a little bit, sounds crazy, but a little bit more forward, we know we have brain connections for military weapons between just thought and weapon systems on airplanes. We were doing that 30, 40 years ago.
What do you mean?
You're
talking about remote viewing?
No, I'm talking about literally like Clint Eastwood was in this movie where they steal a plane from Russia in the 80s, and the whole thing was driven by mind power. But so weapon systems and things that all the pilot has to do is think, and the weapon systems come up, and you would be able to do that. So there is that connection. There's the Elon Musk, the Neuralinks that are literally helping people who can't walk again. So if you were a very advanced 0 point, we'll get into it, like orb, tic tac, 0 point, 6 to crazy Mach speed, 0 point turning vehicles. If you were translucent, if you dealt with sound and frequencies, if you had translucent skin, if you had bigger eyes, the onboard display, what you could do and manage with between yourself and integrate between technology or frequencies and energies that we would normally think are just in the air, it would be really easy to think, okay, well, if I live underground and we're living closer to whatever the heat source is, we don't know what the Earth is. We don't know. We know there's massive hollow spaces, but whatever is really the center of the Earth and whatever kind of engine it is, whether it's natural or whether this whole planet was not just terraformed for life, but what if it was manufactured?
Do you feel like that's a possibility?
So here's the crazy thing. Is the moon hollow? Because it is a manufactured thing, because it could.
Is it a satellite?
Right. So is it a massive satellite that specifically it was used to terraform the Earth, to make it habitable? Was the moon?
Well, because wasn't there a time in history where there wasn't a moon?
You're moving fast.
I'm
just
sorry.
So you know, this is good. But so we're going to get back to all the subjects, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, I just want to make sure. I need to take some notes.
Okay. So the moon. So there is multiple observations from indigenous cultures all over the world.
Right.
There are multiple comments about the moon not existing. Most of those cultures, so when you guys start going down this rabbit hole, if you're listening, the idea of the moon not existing, a lot of that is 7 to 12,000 years ago plus. So
what does that mean?
Right. So there's oral cultures that by the time they're talking, okay, so imagine this, you're an indigenous culture in North America. So a lot of people think Clovis sometimes still, but we're talking these early indigenous stories, these verbal stories that say there was a time with no moon. So by the time, if you think, okay, so we think of North American history as 6 to 9,000 years ago. So we're still in our minds, in my mind, we're talking Navajo, Cherokee, all the indigenous tribes. And I'm just throwing a couple out there because people may know those names, but they have these oral traditions, and by then you could say, well, okay, well that's already their mystical ideas or their legends, their folklore. So does it then date to a time where there was no moon? But there are other stories around the world of other cultures all talking about the time without the moon. So now if we kind of narrow that to the stories are 7 to 12,000 to the Younger Dryas, the biblical flood. So if the stories are that old, then does the time when the moon didn't exist, was that actually 20, 50,000 years ago? Was it 5 to 20 million years ago? Was it, how long ago was it? And so whenever it was, if the moon came later, then the planet was already here. But we know from Michael Cremo, not because of Michael, but just someone who people can reference to point out that there's millions of years of anatomically correct human bones and tools and things that are in the ground. So we know humans have been here maybe always. So whenever the time was that there was no moon, if there was none, and if, like Neil Armstrong, when he said he landed and got through that radioactive frequency that allegedly maybe we can't get through to get to the moon, or maybe one of the theories is that energy barrier is within the moon, so we could go from here to the moon, but not get past the moon. But it rang like a bell when he landed, and they talk about how it rang, and the surface of it and its distance from the Earth.
Do you believe he landed?
So for all the conspiracies or theories that I have dealt with or thought about, I got to be honest with you, none of them faze me. None of them affect me. I mean, everything from being raised Catholic to discussing, Lucifer and how religion really works or anything. But I got to tell you, growing up in a family with a mom who's really into science, it was really, really, I got to tell you, this is one maybe people will be surprised about, but I was pretty sad. It actually hit me. I'm like, this is a childhood excitement. This was a childhood, like the idea of going to space.
Yeah.
The idea of landing on another planet. I mean, the moon was far enough, but I grew up with records. We had the recording of the moon landing, and I would play it. And the idea that it wasn't real, I have to get a drink on it. I mean, I just mean a beverage. But it was so sad. It bums me out. The idea that, man, I can see the logic behind it.
Yeah.
I can see why there's all these, the facts that they listed out about how and why it would not have been possible. I'm like, I see how it fits. However, if he landed on the moon and all the measurable facts about the moon's distance, the way it controls tides, the way it's literally, there's two sides to the way the heart beats.
Right.
And scientifically, we would not have the planet we have. We would not have the life cycle, the wind cycle, the tide cycle. We would not, I think, have organic life without the moon being there the way it is.
Well, then how would there be any oral tradition among tribes if there weren't a biological existence before the moon?
So what I wonder is whether or not there was a time when the earth was, maybe there was always organic life, but in order for it to evolve into the complexity of humanity, of all these other higher creatures. And by the way, higher creatures includes fungal networks and whatever else.
Sure.
But for it to exist, and sequoias, giant trees,
but for it to be passed down in an oral tradition, it would have to be.
This is what I was about to say, is that I wonder if there was a time where it was so clouded over on the planet that the organic life could exist despite not being able to. What if it was that clouded? What if there really wasn't a way to see the moon? What if the sky was actually that messed up?
Yeah, but they could see the stars.
But what if there was a period? What if there's a deep, deep period? What if it really, by 7,000 to 12,000 years ago, it really was starry? What if they really were referring to a period way earlier? What if it's a genetic memory, or what if it's an oral tradition because it's just really something that passed down by the course of tens of thousands of years, i.e. maybe even hundreds of thousands or millions of years? It just was a great story that there was once no moon. It's like, oh, when was there no moon? That would be a great reference for even not an advanced culture, but to be able to say something like that it's like, oh man, it was so long ago there was no moon.
Yeah.
Which is a comment within some native traditions. It's like how old? It's like it's older than there's a phrase, I'm forgetting how to say it, but basically they make a reference to that. It's so old. It was before the moon. Something to that effect. That's a North American native phraseology, I think, from some Western tribes, something like that. It's like it's older than before the moon or something like that. But I think it's a really dramatic thing to say. I'm not belittling or saying that it's not real, but it's the way the moon is placed seems so specific to the type of life and the type of the evolution of where we're at. So it seems like the moon is really intentional. And if it is hollow, and if we have gone to the moon, then is it still a functional machine? And would there be an advanced human race that would be able to have, again, influence that, or been the creators of it, or hollowed it out and made it into something more than what it was or is? And that human race, as they are screwing with literally the biofunctions. I mean, we have plastic surgery, we have a million ways we modify ourselves, and tattoos, and you name it. But if we can think now of neural links like Elon Musk, if we can do these things now, well, what would an advanced frequency energy human race be able to do with collective human consciousness being conscious and not subconscious, but with the machinery, with these engineered soils? Why would they not, if you're traveling and moving at multiple Mach speeds at 0 point turns, again, maybe for you to strap into the equipment, or as whatever cataclysm happened. I want to dial this back from it. So what would make you look like a reptilian if you were human? If the surface of the planet, or if also the surface of the planet was destroyed?
Okay, so basically we can sum it up by saying, like, it was a product of the environment.
Maybe.
Just like every other piece of biological evolution.
Maybe there was a choice within a culture to say, look, we just live happily or closer to this core at this heat level. We have equipment and machinery to cool it off. We don't have to change that. But hey, it's just better if we modify ourselves to look like this, to work with that. However, it doesn't. So here's the thing. It doesn't negate that there could be aliens. It doesn't negate that they could be aliens. It could be that they adapted to this planet and stayed close to the core because they are reptilians.
Mm-hmm.
That's a possibility, that they are not human, that they are a remnant or a survivor of whatever worldwide society that was clearly disrupted at sadly some point. And they're off the coastline. So we don't have that full picture or snapshot of
How do we know they're off the coastline? How do we know they're okay? So let's pause right there, because let's go right here, because this article here from the Daily Mail actually talks about that. Terrifying new theory of what's behind the Tic Tac UFOs that keep rising from the ocean in front of U.S. Navy sailors. Okay. So this is the Jeremy Corbell article, and then this is the one that goes. Okay, so this one talks about the congressional hearing last year, or was this in 23? Or was it 24? Was it last year or this year? 23?
Yeah.
I think it was in 23. Oh, here it is right here. Or maybe it was in 24. I don't remember. I think it was last year. Anyways, so they did this congressional hearing, right? And they had two government officials testify under oath that the U.S. government is in possession of non-human intelligence craft, and that they have recovered, and this was he testified under oath that they've recovered non-human biologics, so beings basically on these craft. So my question to you is, they're specifying that the biologics recovered from these crafts are non-human. So I think that, unless we change the definition of human, I think that the aliens being human theory would be hard to wrap my mind around.
I can't wait to ask you.
I just like to play devil's advocate.
So I'm going to ask you something.
Okay, great. I can't wait.
Here's the question.
Okay.
You're trusting the government to tell you that they're non-human. You're trusting the government to tell you that the advanced humans that destroyed this planet once, who are
Wait a
still
minute.
here.
Wait a minute. They are whistleblowers, though.
They only know what they're... So, here's what we learned from...
No, they witnessed it.
So...
Did you watch the hearings?
Take Bob... Yeah, so take Bob Lazar. There are some people...
Exactly.
So there are people who have worked on crafts. They've worked on bodies. But how much are they... And I've spoken with people in the military or former military and otherwise that have worked in spaces that are clearly not what we know of human history and of these kind of things. But they're departmentalized. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
Right.
So just because they're working on a body and they aren't familiar with the biology, who's to say that that's not human?
Yeah.
Or again, we have millions of years of human history. Who's to say that the biology and what they programmed into the cellular system is going to look exactly like us, or it's going to be exactly our DNA sequencing? If you've been able to program any of this.
I don't know, though, because think about it. Like, think about the Cremo finds or reports. You know what I mean? Like, those are by DNA sample, like human. They're genetic matches to humans.
Well, we have Neanderthal that are, or Denisovan, they are all types of humans, and we're like, oh, well,
Yeah.
they're devolved humans. But then there is this camp that says, wait a minute, Denisovans and Neanderthals had larger brains, and this whole image of them being like apes or devolved, they're not.
Bumping into this.
And what?
You're bumping into this.
Okay. So the idea is that they are, again, we're dealing with people who are not looking human, or we're being told by government people or whistleblowers from what they've seen. These are, and again, I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate to the devil's advocate. I'm just saying that our understanding of being human starts with us being little kids going to the history museum and seeing
Loincloths.
And rock bangers.
Let's bang these rocks and
make fire.
Yeah.
You know what escapes everyone? Side note. I'm going to stay on this because I think this is what's hard for people. They're like, listen, they said it was non-human. I think it's really important to understand the government, the people, they're telling you it's non-human. Why would you believe that? That it's non-human or it's non-human technology? Well, they said it's non-human technology, or it's a metallurgy so two things. I'm going to talk about fire. That's the digression. But to stay on this for one more second, when they come up with a metallurgy or we're going to get into some other stuff, and they say this is not a human found metal or product or material, we have something called spintronics, which is what quantum computing is. So spintronics, the verbiage is because the theory is that we have particles like electrons, which no one likes to talk about. It's a theoretical particle. Electron spins, but it doesn't just spin forward and back. It spins in every direction, which is why quantum things are so complex. So the material science world, so your pen, your clothing, your makeup, everything that I'm wearing, everything that's around us, the various systems that we're using to talk to and connect with everyone, all of that, including the solid state hard drives, we have figured out how to make machines that are 30 to 80 atoms in size. These machines can be Wi-Fi controlled and put into the human bloodstream. The idea of nanobots, they exist. So that is a complexity, which means that if you can spin a single electron, you, like any other cake or bake or cookie or dinner that you want to make, you take a seasoning of atoms and you can create. So in the world of material science right now, that means there's a lot of fibers, a lot of Patagonia. We're not even sponsored. Patagonia, reach out, please. But why not? And we climb. But the point is that they create thin, smart, warm or cooling products for you to go hiking in all sorts of extreme environments.
No, you're right. It's not just Patagonia. North Face does the same thing. And there's that hunting gear. That's what it's Sitka. They're the same way. Where you get this, and Under Armour has the same thing.
Oh, you're right.
You get this super thin material that keeps you extra warm. There's some sort of science in it.
Yeah, and we're doing it with materials like that. We're doing it in paints. We're doing it in products you can think of, but products you wouldn't think to, like Cargill. It's like, we don't make your carpet, we make what goes in it. That was their thing for a while. It was like, or we don't make this, but we make what it does. Or, so they were trying to promote who they are because they're a multi-billion-dollar company, but it's like they're inventing a lot of the things that you wouldn't have the product without them.
Right.
And so it's the same thing where it's like, if you have a society that can, as we can now do, grab any part of spintronics, not all the different components of an atom, but just the electron, create a quantum computer. But if we can create material sciences that are grabbing individual parts of an atom, you can then create materials that do not exist in the planet. That is a new concept, even though it's over, okay, fine, it's over 50 years old, but its application in really day-to-day, the way we think of just going to a suburban Target and buying something, or a Walmart or what have you, these products they've seeped into very practical things, but the high technology of it is something that is not in our mindset. So when we find an orb, when the people out there find the Peruvian, whether it's a body or it's one of these off planet, this material is not of this world. And all I can think of, it's like I'm spending this time because it's not verbalized that, again, if you can grab a single electron, a single part of an atom, and make whatever material you need, and we can do that, why wouldn't a prior human society create better metals, better components, lighter stuff? And so when something crashes or something is broken, the government's telling you they're not human, and they're also telling you this material is not of this planet, when we very much right now currently in commercial production have the ability to grab subatomic particles and
make whatever material we want.
And boom, now we're magicians. We can do this, but it's not in the mindset. So it's so quick to read an article and for us to immediately go, aliens. And now what happens is...
Do you think we're being desensitized to a certain extent? So, it's like when you... Okay, so I wake up every day kind of questioning my reality.
I love this.
You know what I mean? I don't know about you guys.
She
but
does.
I do. Like every day, not a day goes by that I'm not like, is this even real? But you know what I mean? You do. So shit, where was I going?
Well, I was talking about the materials that people can just grab stuff out of the air and make and
whatever they want.
And then I had left off with how that then we went, if the government says that they're alien or they're someplace else, and you're like, well, wait, if I think you're somewhere in the middle of, like, if they're telling us it's not, this material is not of this world and this biology is not of this world, but then you're like, well, wait a minute, if we can make anything out of anything, you kind of went down that road. You're about to go down that road of we can make any material, we can make anything out of anything.
Totally lost that.
Well, you were talking about whether or not it's desensitizing.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Okay, desensitizing. So questioning reality, right?
Yeah.
And so you wake up every day, you're questioning reality, and when you start to wake up and you wait and you start kind of, I'm gonna call it like maybe not immediately joining the collective, but when you're en route to the collective, you know what I mean? That's where I would consider myself. Yeah. I'm en route to the collective. So as I'm en route to the collective and questioning, my reality every day, I'm wondering if, it's like, okay, so aliens were a thing, and then, 47, 42, whatever, 47, right? Area 51 crash.
Area 51.
It was in 47.
Area 51?
Yeah, it was in 1947.
I think so, yeah.
Something like
Somewhere
that.
There.
Okay, so then aliens crash. Was that real? Did the aliens really crash? Were they aliens? And okay, so let's say Bob Lazar is correct, and it was a thing, and it was aliens. So then we have E.T., and then we've got the terrifying movie Aliens. You remember that one, or Alien, or whatever?
Both
it was?
of them. There was Alien.
Oh my God! Aliens. The only thing this traumatized. Talk about PTSD. My God, do you remember the scene, the part where she's like giving birth?
Yeah.
And it's an alien?
Mm-hmm.
What? That's traumatizing.
Yeah.
And by the way, Mom, I love you so much if you're watching, but you did let me watch some creepy shit way before I should have been able to. Like arachnophobia, couldn't get out of the chair for a week after that. Or take a bath for a month. Terrified.
Great.
Yeah. And her sister, my aunt let me watch It when I was like 6.
No.
Yeah, the clown movie.
No.
I know.
No, that's all the clowns.
There's and my dad always had a problem with it too, because he wouldn't let me watch PG-13 movies until I was 13. But I was like watching rated R stuff, with my mom. Arachnophobia. I don't know if that was rated R.
No, that was.
I feel like nowadays it'd be rated G.
You said something I want to go back to.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, you don't need to apologize. I just want to keep. Bob Lazar is brilliant, and I think this is something that gets in our vernacular. This is the programming you were talking about. That you made a bunch of good points, but I think it's important for people to practice this in their minds. Bob Lazar worked on alien tech. The assumption is it's alien tech and that it's not advanced human
technology. Yeah.
And I don't think the governments that want us to think that it's human. It can't possibly be advanced human because it messes with religious ideologies and timelines.
But it doesn't matter if it's advanced humans or an alien species. Either way, it messes with religious timelines,
There's that.
Political timelines. It messes with everything. It completely disrupts societal norms.
Oh, yeah.
Any conditioning we've received, all conditioning we've received, it disrupts everything. You have to question everything. I mean, you might be able to loop it into scripture somehow. I don't really know, because that seems to be a common theme.
I can think of a couple ways.
Yeah. I can too.
Yeah.
But I do think, I don't know. I think that there's a possibility that through the decades that we're being desensitized. And so then you have to ask yourself, is like you're saying, to circle back, you're talking about, like,
it sucks. It's hard because it's
but is it real or is it not? You know, it's like, are we being desensitized to the point that it's a real thing, or is it not a real thing? And is it alien tech? Is it advanced human tech? Is it from the past? Is it from the future? And then you have to mistrust the government, but it's like they've been keeping this a secret or trying to keep this a secret for so long. And then they come out in 2017 or 19 or I don't know, 21 or whatever. And on the CIA website or whatever, and they're disclosing now all of these things, all of this information. You can get on there. I mean, half of it's probably redacted, but you can get on there and you can read up about this stuff. And so it's like they're slowly leaking out this information, but we've been slowly desensitized by Hollywood since E.T., came out in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you a question. How do you feel about being both?
Being desensitized and them existing?
No, that it could be
alien and human. You know what? I think that it's possible that it could be both, but I also think that it's naive to think that we are the center of the universe and that no other beings exist in the expansive.
Okay, let me pause you, because this is a loop that is so common in this world, and for everyone who's listening, and this is a common loop. And I think it's important that this is one of the things that I want us at RQX, I think we should draw attention to, put a spotlight on. When you say it would be crazy to think that there's not other, that's exactly true. Without a doubt.
Right.
There is no way there is not more than us.
Right.
More advanced or equally dimensionally different timelines within this universe. There's no way there's not other.
Yeah, I mean, as long as math exists, that's probably true.
That's mathematically true.
I mean, come on.
Literally mathematically true.
Right.
So, but it's not a but. That's all true. But what happens is the very start, I think, and this is what the light needs to be on. When you say, hey, we're not the only one, we're so resistant, I think, to no one is commonly thinking that there are humans that are advanced, that look like aliens, that are here. It is so much more now ready in the mindset to say there are aliens that are definitely in the universe, and they're definitely here, and there's no way we're alone. And it's the best way that we immediately jump to say, hey, the explanation for all these things we're seeing, it's definitely because they're from somewhere, versus our great ancestors effed up the whole planet in a completely global society that was conscious and connected, and they did the whole thing, and it somehow failed, and they're still here. It is so, and okay, even that is a story or an explanation as to we can tell there was a global society, but why are they not helping us? Why are there so many more avalanche of questions? It's easier to go, oh, there's some space traveling anthropologists. So when you go down the road of, it's a natural thing. It's like, there's no way we're alone. But it's easy to get down that thought and go, and to contemplate other species and aliens than it is to contemplate the destruction of a global human advanced society that they may have imploded themselves, and they're here now, and we have cancer, and they could fix it.
Okay, so when you say they're here now, okay, so all of these articles and things and stuff that we read, and this is another issue, is we've got mainstream media and then we've got social media, and we've got social media and all of these people, and you have to kind of decipher through what's trash and what's not. You know, it's like, is this AI generated crap or is this real? You know what I mean? Not that it's crap. You know, not AI generates all kinds of amazing things, but I'm just saying, like, are we generating falsities or is this like truth? You know what I mean? So
we're right.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
No offense, AI. Don't come get me from the future. But
we know the exact moment we're coming back. But that's what we sound like in the future. Like 1940 robots.
I feel like Siri is more advanced than that. Yeah. Anyways.
Like the Luciferians, we let you know we're coming because we sound like robots. Die, humans.
AI can generate some really cool things.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, there's a difference in like mainstream media and what they put out and then what you see on social media, because you got all these people out there, eyewitnesses, with everybody's got a phone in their hand. Everybody has a video camera in their hand and can catch things real time. And so it's all over the place. It's all across all platforms, you know, and you know how algorithms will spit these things out once you start liking and whatever. And so now my algorithm is all about
TikTok. You mean like orbs and
UFOs
and
all the things. Yeah. And so that's what I see a lot of, but I'm not seeing a lot of this stuff in mainstream media. And what I do see is this. It's the same dudes, Corbell and what's his name, and they're doing the same thing, and it's the same dudes, and it's the same stories over and over and over again in mainstream. And in documentaries and things like that. But out on social media, it's completely different. And so you have to ask yourself, like, what's actually happening here? And a question that I have for you, I was thinking about this a second ago. I just made a note of it. The aliens, when you say, let's just assume that they're whatever, we can say that they're human or not human. Okay.
Could be both.
Could be both. Okay. Let's just say probably both. But let's just say it's both. So the ones that are visiting now, and you're talking about maybe it's us from the past, right?
That, some survivors of a very advanced human race continue to be advanced, and through history they've been mistaken as, or they've been called Atlanteans, they've been called Lemurians. You know, there's this idea that there's this lost continent of advanced humanity, that continent could have been Atlantis. And so we constantly look for these stories we've created in the last few thousand years, and we put so much weight behind them,
right?
That's our reasoning,
right? But what I'm wondering though is, do you think it's possible that, since time isn't linear, right? And do you think it's possible that there is some sort of dimensional, like, time slip or wormhole, or I don't know, portal or whatever, some sort of dimensional space-time gap or tunnel from one dimension to another? I don't know. But do you think it's possible that there are other dimensional beings around us on this planet that we can't see?
I think the one answer that it feels like it rings true is that math says that that's a possibility. Math just says that actually, I think I have a point about this now from that question that I've never had before in my own mind. It's about the ether.
Okay.
There's a dialogue now about how they're trying to delete the word ether from our dialogue.
Oh, of course they are, because it's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you realize that you can just reach up there and grab out whatever shit you want and bring it down and make it real, it becomes a threat.
Yeah,
we don't need the government.
Right. Well, so herein lies herein lies part of the issue with that. Then the reason I want to answer two things. One is, like, why do we get these same people in these articles about aliens and everything else? Because I think they are well aware of how are they going to control the narrative and resist change and waking up and us really knowing. So if you keep the dialogue around aliens as long as you can, but not admit to it, you're still not saying, actually, no, they're really advanced humans that screw the planet up. And they might even have some of the reasons why. They might even know They may have even had dialogues with some of these humans and know what happened to us tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of years ago. They might actually know.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucks, because then they've still chosen to go down this route, where I think the reason you have these mainstream articles where it's finally like, hey, let's just mentally draw out for years to come that it's aliens. Now we can just, as long as we deflect from the truth, you know, and then that's that adage right now that it's like, it's not what you say. It's Bob Lazar came out because he said, listen, if I don't get it out there, they could kill me or what have you. Right.
Right.
So once it's out there, there's no point. But again, there's this thing about you, if you can't prove it, it's not a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And so the issue is now the dialogue is around, okay, there's aliens. But again, aliens is a far cry from saying, oh no, we had a globally advanced human race and these are advanced humans and these are advanced human technologies. And yeah, we could have cured cancer. We are, we had that on hieroglyph, and we just, we don't translate that. And that could be a possibility, but dimensionally. Okay. So let's just say that the ether, and this is what you just got me down thinking, and I've never thought about this before, but what if the ether itself exists, not, again, time as a construct, right? What if the ether is entirely cross-dimensional? What if the ether exists?
100%, I believe it is.
What I'm saying, though, is what if there is no barrier to any timeline or dimension? It's strictly a single ether, not different ethers, not ethers tethered at certain points.
No, I think it's part of the collective. I think the ether is part of the collective.
No matter what dimension, it's the same ether.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay.
Well, and I don't think when we talk about the collective, I don't think we're just talking about the collective in this dimension. I think we're talking about cross-dimensionally. We're talking about the collective consciousness of everything that's connected to source, which is everything in existence. So the collective I'm referring to would be cross-dimensional anyways. So the ether would naturally cross dimensions, because if we can connect to it in other dimensions.
You know what you're saying right now, in my mind, in one of the ways that I've departmentalized, I've never thought of the ether being cross-dimensional. I've always thought it as separate ethers. Like somehow the ether itself was its own entity, and depending on what dimension you went to, it was a different ether. I've never actually considered that it's a single universal ether, that no matter what, that's what tethered everything together, or that was the foundation, that there's a single. So but it makes perfect sense, because why do we feel like we meet or consciously connect or astral project to another dimension? Some people. So of course the only way to do that is if it was a single ether. I never thought of that. I never thought that way.
Yeah. Well,
you did. I didn't.
Well, you think about all kinds of stuff that I don't think about.
Yeah, but this is a big one. This one's huge. This is like, you're blowing my mind right now.
It's because I spend so much time in my own mind.
Well,
I've often wondered too, if the things that sometimes the thoughts that we get are sent down, because sometimes I think of the ether like a river running through dimensions. And so sometimes I wonder if our higher selves drop drop ideas into the ether and send it down. and then we pick the thought up out of the, we kind of fish it out with our own mind. And, because when we kind of wonder, like we get these brilliant thoughts or have these epiphanies, or, like you're drinking coffee one morning, you're like, oh my God, I just had this amazing thought. What about this? You know what I mean? And then you pick up the phone and you call somebody important. So,
all right.
You know what I mean? I think that that's where those thoughts come from. I think that it's the cross-dimensional ether river that, our higher selves are just like, hey, because I think that they've already walked the path before us, right? And so they already they're there ahead of us, and they already know what's going to happen, because time isn't linear. It's the human construct. And so we're already there in the future too. We exist there too, right now, simultaneously. And so our future selves, our higher selves already know what's going to happen, where they've already walked the path before us. And so I think that in the effort to guide us through this human experience in this journey, of growth and evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
They maybe plant these little seeds. They put these little fishies in the ether river, and these like fishy thoughts swim down to us, and then we just like scoop them out. And we're like, oh my God, I just had this epiphany. Actually, your higher self gave it to you. But yeah, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does, but I'm busy piecing together all the different paradigms and things I've ever thought against the fact that the ether is a single ocean. So, and this is helpful, and I'm tracking, but at the same time, it's like, okay, wait, if everything's connected like that, so dimensionally or otherwise, then dimension doesn't factor into existence. It doesn't factor into, if it's a single ether,
right?
Then the idea of different timelines or different multiple universes or anything, the idea of it then changes for me, because it's not, it's not, everything's happening all at once, everything over all at once, that sort of thing. But it's not, it's completely ether. So I'm trying to, in my mind, what's I'm piecing together is, how does the ether that extends in some perception of distance for us to understand that over there's a whole universe, and over here there's a whole universe, but they're all instantly and quantumly connected because of the ether. Yet, how much is this universe independent from that universe, or how much do the two interact? Or,
well, I think that I'm not so sure that the ether isn't the same as the collective consciousness. Like, I think that it might be like, maybe it's two branches of the same tree. I don't really know. Or
I'm following you. I think you're onto something.
I mean, because we're connected consciously, right? We can connect to the collective, but we can produce reality and create reality from the ether. Is that also our consciousness? Is it the same? Is it two rivers of the same, from the same ocean? Is it, or is it, do you know what I mean? Is it part of,
I think what your whole not theoretical, I think you're
what if it's source? Like, everything is source, right? You've got source running through humans, you've got source running through non-humans, you've got source running through the planet, you've got source running through nature, and source running through the ether, and source running through the collective. And so what if it's all branches of the same source energy?
But that in itself is the ether. So I think we try to assign. So we grew up under constructs. Without getting into it, I think if we simplify this, it absolutely has to do with the ether is the source. The ether is
then obviously it would be cross dimensional. If the ether is source, then there would be no borders or boundaries that would cross dimensions.
No, it's the way it's been described. It's a field perturbation. So it's like, you throw a rock into a lake, and the ripples, the lake is the ether. So that ether is what everything is. And as it formulates into a house, to a person, to just consciousness itself, or awareness, whatever it is, everything is ether. So the base, when we say source, we always want to, so we get stuck with the idea of the Big Bang. We get stuck with the idea that at some point there was a single point in.
Can we just squash that already?
Oh, I know, right? So but I think this is where the thinking comes from. The thinking comes from the programming that there is a linear, once there was a thing in one place, and then it went out somewhere. It went out everywhere. There's always, and then when the verbiage source, that there was a beginning when it's not.
But that's the problem that humans have. That's the hard part about being human, is the only thing we know is finality. We're born, we live, we die, right? And even though, for the most part, I think that most of us, regardless of if you're spiritual or religious or whatever, most I think it's safe to say the majority, maybe, I don't know, it doesn't, we don't even need to assign that to it. There are a lot of people, a vast number of people feel like, that we are immortal, right? That we just continue to to live and go on. And so, but it's so hard for people to wrap their minds around a before and an after, or there not being a beginning or an end to anything. It's like it's so hard to not ask yourself, but when did it start? But how did it start? But who started it? But who created it? How did
Okay.
it start? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
How did it
yeah.
begin? It's so hard as a human
Mhm.
when the only thing you know is birth, life, death, like this just circle of like finality, basically. Like everything's got like an expiration date on it for the most part, you know? And so when that's the only thing you know, to think about always existence. That's all there's ever been is existence, always. To wrap your mind around the idea that we exist outside of time and space is difficult for most people. That's the problem. Is
One of them.
It is one of them, one of many. But to wrap your mind around the idea that we exist outside of time and space, this body is just an evolutionary vessel, or just, you know, a source of energy for whoever's harvesting us.
So besides being in the Matrix itself, one of the other scary points, and not to pile onto this one, there is an impossibility of us to look at all of it without assigning. And well, there's I see there's two sides of this coin being both problematic. One is the individualness. I think there is very much a point to us being individuals. Are we connected collectively? Yes. And I've been saying this a lot recently, but I do think there's something to the male, female. There's a point, there's a left, right hand to it. So there's this idea of I do believe we're individuals for a reason. On the other side, though, there's this idea that collectively we're not, that somehow there is, in quotes, a source that we go back and we're reconstituted. But I do think on one hand, there's a lot of us that want to believe that our individualness stays individual. There's another camp that says on the other side, when you go back to source, you're not anything, or you're part of that energy, you're conscious, but you individually no longer exist. You become another individual, but there's still kind of this lingering idea that you are still you. You have a different face, you have a different gender, or there's the belief that, you know, one day you're a gnat, and one day you're a frog, and one day you're an ape, and one day you're a human. You know, that there's this different sort of life cycle, right? Mystically speaking, that you're regenerated, but you're still you. This idea of this, you are this individual, you're on a journey, you're trying to improve yourself. And I'm not saying that facetiously, but the idea is that no matter what, there's this individualness. And we've discussed this, like, what if each of us are a question of the universe, and the universe manifests us as to see
a thought, an idea, to answer the question,
whatever it
that
is
it has of itself. And I think that's important to share that too, because one of the things that we talked about when we had this discussion was is the universe as mature as we think it is, or is it constantly learning and evolving and expanding like we are? Because what if our evolution, as we grow and evolve and expand, what if that is because, you know, there is this theory that the universe is constantly expanding. Well, my thought has always been, what the hell is it expanding into? But that aside, if it's a weird thought. It's a weird thought. If everything that's in existence is in existence, what are we expanding into? Like, all I can think about is time and space, and we're expanding. But what if the expansion is directly related to our expansion? So if we are, like we discussed, these thought projections of source, right? So if source as the universe is evolving and growing, and it's like this feedback loop, right? So as we evolve and grow and expand and contribute to the collective, because that's what our expansion does, is contributes to the collective. So as we contribute to the collective and expand, as we expand, then the universe, being directly correlated to us, expands as well. And so maybe the expansion that we see physically, or physical projection of what we're experiencing, is the expansion of the universe, but really it's the expansion of our inner worlds.
And I think what you're saying, and we've talked about this, that's exactly what it is. But while you're speaking, I just thought of something.
What?
In all the ways that the universe, one, could have its own consciousness and be infinitely expanding itself
Mm-hmm.
into the ether in ways that we can experience because we're connected to that ether.
Mm-hmm.
So on one hand, we're becoming aware of something we didn't know we needed to, or we're going to be aware of,
Right.
or it might just manifest as a feeling or an itch, even though it could be like super vast and infinite.
Uh-huh.
But it occurs to me, I was thinking about while you were speaking, I was tracking, but it occurred to me, what if in the ways that one of the things that terrifies us when I grew up watching stuff was about black holes.
Oh God, yeah.
And the collapsing of
just disappearing inside it.
Or dark stars, where again we're looking at like the sun, our star is going to burn out and it's going to fry the whole solar system, and or it's going to implode, it's going to become a black hole. What if within the universe itself, the witnessing of black holes, what if those are actual, possibly not only either universal consciousness, but what if those are individual willed collapses of ideas?
Whoa.
What if we are watching?
Whoa.
What if we're watching?
Hold on a second. Okay, wait. Okay. So let's think about this for a second.
Okay.
So
we need that a drink then.
Oh, okay, here. This one's yours.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, okay. Yes. I love this. This is so good. Okay. So, this is so good. Okay. So, let's back up. Let's replay it. Okay. So, let's go with the idea, all right, that we are thought projections from the universe, right? So, we're source energies thought projections. So, let's say to simplify it, let's say as source energy, the universe, God, okay, has a thought and idea. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, I want to experience this. So bam, here we go. Here's me. And I'm out here experiencing this, right? And as I'm learning and experiencing and growing and evolving, the universe is also learning and experiencing and growing and evolving. Mm-hmm. And as we get these bad ideas, I wonder what they have to be though, because these
right,
like what constitutes a black hole? What kind of bad idea creates a black hole in space?
What's worse? What if these brilliant ideas we come up with create this vast section of infinity? What if
we're creating as we're creating? What if we're creating physical universes as we're creating on the planet?
So, two crazy thoughts that I just had.
Okay, shoot, tell me.
What if that black hole isn't due to any a conclusion of that universe's question as we're manifested? What if that black hole is due to just the accidental thought of a 3-year-old? What if it's not even complex? What if a 3-year-old trips and instead of just tripping, they accidentally, like, that black hole is just a vacuumed up section of a very immature idea, but from something that is very much alive in the ether? Or what if the infinite expanse of the consciousness of the universe as we know it, or of the ether, what if that end, and where we are, so just for people to understand, for myself to describe it, what if that infinite end of the new universe has its own thought and deletes our side?
Ooh.
At what point does it think what if it's not linear? So it would have no idea. Someone might just have a thought.
No way it's that finicky.
I don't even know if it's finicky. I don't think it knows any better.
No, it has to. It has to, because this is why.
Now we're talking about godly consciousness.
I know, exactly. Well, divine consciousness is what
like a referee that would we can't delete this side of the earth from this end of the universe.
No. I'm just saying, there's got to be, if we're talking about direct correlations between our expansion and experience and evolution on the planet and the destruction of a black hole or a star. All right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So we have these things that happen in space, and we're talking about direct correlations. Okay. I love the idea of as we are creating magic on the planet, okay, whether it's creating magic or miracles or whatever it is, as we're these creative beings on the planet and growing and evolving, we're not only expanding the universe, right? But we're also creating new ones.
Right.
Okay, what if, oh my God, what if okay, so let's assume that we're infinitely creative, right? What if we are creating new universes for ourselves to experience?
Yeah.
So what if like through this experience, what if I'm making mental notes that I don't even, like my higher self is like taking notes of my experience, and we are co-creating a new universe for us to exist in?
Yep. And what if there are lower existing energy conscious creations, whether it's via dog? What if there are species that are unable to communicate in a way that they would like?
Yeah.
What if in their existence or manifestation, they can't, like, I don't want to get hit. I don't want to be disciplined.
Yeah.
What if they themselves can't articulate it within the ether any other way? But what if they manifest things that we think mystically as a golem or a goblin or a demon or something? What if their manifestations, at what level does any life force create something to protect them or to help them or to exact their own vengeance or their own consciousness? What if something out in the universe manifests something on the behalf of what we would consider a less conscious thing, but it isn't? What if all this,
it would be like us protecting animals or
right? So what if some of the things that we have mystified or created and said, oh, there's witches, there's demons, there's evil creatures, there's little hobgoblins and elves and fairies, and what if the little things that happen in the woods, and what if those little things that happen with the creaky doors, what if those are manifestations of other conscious things that are delivering that into our existence based on more so not malevolent, but more an equalizer, or not a punishment, but a warning, or
a guidance, maybe.
Yeah, it could be something positive.
Maybe they're tuning forks of some sort.
Right. So now, if we're witnessing in the ever expansive universe the collapse,
it's got to be tied to a bigger idea, though, because we cannot say that a black star or the death, like a star death, is related to the fall of a 3-year-old, right? It's got to be a little more complex than that.
We want it. Oh, look, I mean, it'd be terrifying to think that anything would be that fickle, right? That it could not be extremely conscious. It would have to be. She got some cool glasses, right?
I can't see.
117.
Can you see
117. What are you looking for?
Right here.
Oh, all right. So what if we can, all right. So you can click on it and show it if you want. So what's it say? What if we were in a petri dish, right? There's a point. So if we were in a petri dish, that's exactly.
And how do we know that we weren't?
How to know that we aren't? I mean,
how that you know that this isn't a petri dish?
So one of the great videos on one of the platforms, it's 206 seconds. That'll change your perspective of things. And I think I said it to you a long time ago. And it's showing, our sun and all the bigger suns, and it's showing our planet, and it's showing like 6 of our planets just on a ring in Saturn, and like just this, and then
you're talking about the zoom out.
It shows all the way to the known universe. But then it ends with the fact that there is more atoms in a grain of sand, in a single grain of sand, than there is in all the things that you can see in the whole universe.
Right.
And so then it's like, it just gives the finite and myopic points of how complex the universe is. So the point is, what if we're in a petri dish? It would be very reasonable to assume that that's exactly what we could be in. Our what we call space. Yeah, exactly. What Jerry's saying. It's like we could easily be in that thought process then. So, and this is one of the things early on, it's like we have all these different religious and mysticism. It's like, so collectively, if you have, and maybe we say wherever 3 are collected, we have this idea that if there's 3, then there's that there's a God
Right.
presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if the one thing that we remember is that if you have at least 3 individualized brains, that's enough quantum power to manifest real things out of the ether. There's enough power draw that we can actually do it collectively, and collectively is only 3. So what happens when you have a mystical or a system of thought that has millions, tens of millions, or billions of people believing in it?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then of course, one of the, and I like to go back to this. So I'm reading Schrodinger's Cat, In Search of Schrodinger's Cat, and there's a couple different books. But to learn quantum mechanics, or to learn quantum theory, to learn how it all connects, one of the things they did to first prove collective consciousness is, we're like, well, what's the biggest world event? Well, that's the world soccer, world football. And so for most of you in the world who know that's football and not soccer, but for Americans, it's soccer. But this is the largest, and here's what's really important. You can watch the Olympics in America, but we're very selective. I had no idea how many sports are in the Olympics until I went to Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Germany, the Olympics are on, and I start watching, and there's not almost a single damn sport I'd ever seen. Like everything on, I'm like, shit, this is an Olympic sport? And there's so many sports in the Olympics, but we don't participate then. So Americans are like, that's not a sport.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I'm watching the Olympics in a way I'd never seen the Olympics. I'm in Frankfurt. I was born there, and I'm watching the Olympics like, shit, that's an Olympic sport. That's an Olympic sport. And I'm watching this. And I'm like, this, I have no idea. This is a paradigm. And I digress on this for a moment, but the idea is that if you're collectively thinking simultaneously of something that is in real time happening,
Mm-hmm.
what they proved on the quantum of their following, they were able to see a quark, a specific subatomic particle. And they watched it during the World Soccer Cup, which is not recorded. Everyone in the world likes to watch it live,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's 3 a.m. or 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
or midnight or 6 p.m. Everyone in the world is watching, billions of people, hundreds of millions watching the football game for the Super Bowl, but billions of people are watching goals get blocked, scoring, all of it's happening in real time. So they watch this quantum particle.
Mm-hmm.
This is 50 years ago now, or 40 something years ago now. And they watched this particle move with billions of people. And it was the first time that they were able to prove collective consciousness is not just a theory, it's real. And that's primitive. That's extremely primitive.
Which is crazy, because here's the thing is you've got people that are aware.
Mhm.
Okay. You've got like 2 groups basically of people on the planet. You've got people that are aware, and you've got people that are unaware.
Yeah.
People that are waking up to the fabric of reality, and then people that aren't. And like what he's saying, our consciousness is creating what we call space.
Yep.
He's onto it. And
Mhm.
I think, but what's so crazy, and I'm wondering if so we've never met, right?
What?
Jerry?
No.
Right. Okay. But his idea is the same as ours. So we have these same ideas. So these ideas are coming from somewhere,
Mhm.
right? The ideas that we have are coming from somewhere. They're generated from somewhere. We just wake up with random ideas. I mean, we do, but they come from somewhere. They're generated from somewhere, whether it's experience or the ether, they're coming from somewhere. So I think they're coming down that river of ether ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're picking them up as a collective. So even though like we're disconnected from some of the people, we have the same idea about something, and they're big ideas.
Mm-hmm.
They're big, important ideas that relate to the existence of humans on the planet. Right.
Yep.
But we're physically separated from these other people, but we have the same ideas. So it's just about sharing the ideas, getting them out there, and offering different perspectives. But people have to be open to these perspectives, because we've got this group of people that are awake and aware, right? That this is happening, that there is this collective consciousness that we're a part of. And then you've got these sleepers who have no idea that they're inadvertently contributing or affecting the ether in negative ways, or themselves, like they're creating negative situations and obstacles that are in their life that they don't need to be creating, but they're haphazardly manifesting shit without even knowing that they're doing it, you know? And that's something that we've got to go back and we've got to re-educate. People need to, we don't know how to live. We don't know how to exist on the planet. We're not connected. We're not eating right. We're not practicing. And I think that there was a comment, if I could see right.
Oh, you can't really pull much further.
I can't reach.
No.
Can you go to that?
Which one was it? Above?
Up, that one. Oh. Oops.
Oh.
Okay. I thought it said meditation glasses.
All right.
So anyways, back to meditation. I think that meditation, you mentioned something earlier that I kind of want to go back to when you were talking about, you know, the ancients, this global society being connected to abilities in a way that we aren't, you know, like telepathy, psychic abilities, remote viewing, astral projection, all of these things that so many of us now don't have the connection to. And it's because of obviously, you know, being what Graham Hancock, I think maybe said it, we're a race with amnesia. And wasn't it him?
That's right.
Yeah. So being a race with amnesia, we're born into this experience with no memory of where we came from. And then we're programmed and conditioned by whatever society and culture that we're born into. Right. And then we just grow up thinking these things. And do we consider ourselves lucky for waking up? I don't know. It's pretty painful, but for the ones of us that are waking up and becoming more aware, it is an uncomfortable process. But I think that as we wake up and as we connect and as we grow and as we evolve, I think it's important that we understand that the collective that we're contributing to, like these people that are asleep, are walking around haphazardly making bad decisions that are affecting the collective. And if we can retrain ourselves, if we can go back and understand that different modalities like sound healing, crystal healing, you know, water carries healing frequencies and properties, and meditation and yoga and breath work and all of these things that I feel like the ancients were practicing.
Yes.
You know, these things were part of it. And plant medicine, you know, plant medicine's been around for thousands of years. Yep. And that's another thing that connects us to the ether, to the collective, to source energy. And so there are all of these practices that we consider like woo-woo and witchy and it's mysticism and whatever. It's not. These things are natural ways for us to connect to ourselves, to connect to source energy, to learn about who we are. We can get downloads from the ether, from the collective, from our higher selves, from source directly, you know?
I have a couple things that you've said that you're going to like.
Okay.
Or not.
Yes, shoot.
What if that conscious universe, what if there's individual entities or group of entities or groups of universes within it, in that other petri dishes, that actually intentionally influence a single human being? Or a single thought process or a single entity, right? Also, what if that advanced human race and all of their ability, what if ultimately one of our downfalls was we collectively, when we were that collectively conscious, what if we did reach so far into the ether, we knocked on a door we shouldn't have?
Ooh, that's terrifying. Maybe that's what Schrodinger saw.
But what if we did it collectively, and then what if that was what destroyed our collective society?
I wonder if that's what happens and why there's like a great reset on the planet every so often. It's like every 2,000 years, there's some kind of reset on the planet in some way.
I think the cycle is, I think what they're doing is they're based it on the entire constellational cycle. So, you know, the age of Aquarius, the age of this, the age of that. Yeah. So it's basically the cycle. There's a debate on its length between 20. Well, the short number is like 26,000 years. Like it's like saying the Younger Dryas was 12,000. So the short answer is, it's a cycle of 26,500 years, give or take. Some people say 23, some people say 28.
Where are we at in that cycle?
We're still in the age of Aquarius, I think. But
I think we were moving out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be totally wrong.
Well,
I'm not.
There's some. No, you're right. I think there's some debate about whether or not we passed it or whether at the end of it. And but again, what if we collectively, consciously knocked too far into the ether, or too far into that consciousness, or too far over into some dimension, into something, and the thing is, of the humanity that's left, that this is, I think, one of the reasons I would like to say, whether it's alien or whether it's advanced human, I want to know why a race that could, humanity that could cure cancer, we could live indefinitely, we could have 0 point turning Mach 10 machines.
Mm-hmm.
Why leave us in, like, if you're in this state, it's better to mystify it and be in our state. It's better to not know.
Mm-hmm.
Are they really putting that splice in our gene? Are we really at this consciousness level now because it's better to be blissful? Is it better to not know? Is there a reason? Because
they want to keep us like young and, I mean, not young and dumb, but like naive and okay. So it's 9:32. We have a few minutes left.
That's true.
Yeah. So we are running out of time, but
this is some thoughts to think on today.
Bless. Am I going to sleep tonight? No.
So we're supposed to talk about Belize again? Oh, where were we? Finish your train of thought.
Yeah. Shoot. Gosh. Yeah. I'm just, all I can think of is like the Truman Show or like The Giver or something, you know, where it's just like, if we don't do this, we can just live blissfully forever. Like, don't look into the darkness. You know what I mean? And so, but I'm wondering, I'm like, who is that and why? And what's the point? Because you're right. Like if we can cure cancer and we can heal all of these things and we can live forever and we have these healthy, like what happened? Like what triggered the planet to reset? Why did we reset? And why can't we remember? And why?
Go on.
Yeah. I'm just,
okay.
Wait. So we've got like so I think that next week, probably what we need to get into is numbers and geometry, because I think that there's some crazy number situations, and the number 13 is one of them. And the reason why I say this is because we've got like these 13 powerful families or whatever that control all the stuff on the planet, apparently. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering, are these 13 powerful families actually aliens? Are they descendants of ancients? Are they, like, what's the motive? Are they descendants of some, evil? Like, is this a secret society? Is it the Illuminati?
Okay.
You know what I mean? So let's hold these thoughts for next week.
Okay. One more thought.
Okay.
Just what if the reason, when you think pineal gland and calcified and we think about not connecting to the universe, what if the second we could consciously connect to that greater universe, it would just tell us the answer as to why we are where we are?
Ooh, which is why they want to keep us separate.
Mm-hmm. Because just a few of us could get this answer. There might be a tipping point number, but the answer would just be there.
But even in one of these articles that we were going to read but didn't get to, one of the things that it said was that maybe they're here to contribute to the collective. Like maybe they're here to raise the collective on the planet, to, you know what I mean? Like raise the frequency of the planet, to help people realign. Like maybe the reason why we're seeing all of these crazy phenomenon lately, coming out of the ocean and orbs all over the planet and, all the crazy things that are happening, not in mainstream media, but on social media. The things that we're seeing, like maybe they're here helping, maybe they're, I don't know.
I have some ideas that I'm not going to share.
So optimistic.
I love that. And I'm optimistic too, but we'll table this because we'll just talk about this next time.
To be continued.
But for now, please go to archaeox.com. We have a expedition. We want a tour that we would like everyone to join us on. Please sign up. Please come.
Yep, it's going to be fun. We're going to see some Mayan ruins. We're going to go to the
magical cave.
We're going to go to a magical cave.
It's a mountain. It's a hollowed out mountain, but it's a magical cave.
Lots of conscious conversation, breath work, yoga, all the goodies. Also, opportunity for humanitarian work. So part of, and let's just real quick, I'll just zoom through this. Part of ArchaeoX is humanitarian work. And currently the work that we're doing in this village includes helping out a school and bringing clean water. Some of the needs that we have in this village, we are looking for solar panels. All this is on the website. But we are looking for solar panels for the school. Batteries for the solar panels. There's going to be wiring that's included. And then also we installed last year when we installed some clean water filtration systems. We need to push a little bit more water. So we're looking for, they have a well. It needs to be dug, I think, a little bit deeper.
Yep.
And we're looking at putting a filtration system on the well itself. And then there are 2 large tanks in the village, one at the school and one at the community center, that we're looking for to just move larger volumes of water.
Yeah.
And then we have a screen or a bat issue in the school.
So we need screens.
So we need screens. There's a gap. The walls come up and then the ceilings come down and there's a gap. Probably, I don't know, like this. Bats are coming into the school, leaving feces, and so on all of the surfaces and the floors, and so they're having to come in every morning, clean those. It's just like a serious issue.
Yeah, and this work, it's important for people to know that this is a village that is right on top of 400 acres of Mayan ruins that are near the Mitchell Hedges Crystal Skull. This is where ArchaeoX did LiDAR work, where we filmed, and we want to continue to do work and create sustainable jobs and renewable, not just humanitarian. We definitely want these things. Please check it out on archaeox.com to see how, if you can help and or contribute, do that or come on the expedition. But also we want to create sustainable opportunities for the village itself. So we're excited to do all that. And we would be really, really honored if you guys, any of you, want to contribute. So please contact us. Yeah.
So to segue back, part of the efforts down there, the humanitarian efforts, going to include a few days working in the village. And so if you're interested in humanitarian work and you want to join us, go to the website, sign up for the trip, and then you'll be able to spend all kinds of time in the village serving.
That's it.
Yeah.
You summed it up.
Awesome. All right, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you same time next Wednesday.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.